All right, welcome to my video. What I want to do here, just be patient with me. It's my kind of first video like that. Is I want to do something meaningful with LLMs because I want to go above and beyond the build me a snake game in Python mentality online, where everyone is using LLMs to build a Python game that is like a snake or Tetris, which um, they consider as this is a good model for programming. But that's something that you can be sure it's already in the data set of these models, and it's not really a good test for it. So what I want to do is I want to build something that is useful, and for something to be useful, you can definitely, at this point, you cannot do it in a single prompt. I mean, it has to be an iterative process where you are part of the loop. You cannot just like say, write me, I don't know, a weather app for iPhone, and you just press the button, go to sleep, and then copy a few files, and the app is done. That's not possible, at least in the current state of the LLMs. I'm recording this right after OpenAI dropped the O1 model, which supposedly could do multiple steps and think about things and fix errors, but still, it's in their model is in their infancy, and that's why I'm not using it. First of all, it's very expensive. Second of all, it lacks a lot of features like I'll compare it to the one that I'm using, which is Claude Sonnet, if I'm not mistaken, the 3.5 version, which has the playgrounds. You have files that you can, but I'll discuss this one a bit later. So the format of the video is going to be me building stuff in front of you together with the models. I'm not a professional developer. I do know a bunch about it. I've been doing a little bit of coding here and there pretty much for my entire life. So if you are someone who just wants to do something, knows a little bit about programming, not complete newbie, but is afraid to start something bigger, this might be for you. Also, I have to mention I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I'm not aiming to create entertainment in today's world. TikTok world, 5-second attention span people would most likely not like the format that I'm using. But it's going to be a long video, and if you have the patience and you bear with me, you probably can learn something, or at least see what I find for myself. It might not be even possible to build something useful, but this is the goal. If things go well, I might have even a second video where I keep building on this thing. So a couple of words of what I'm using. I am using Docker, where I'm creating containers for the different parts of the application. I'm using VS Code, and also I'm using, as I said, Claude Sonnet 3.5, which in my opinion is the best coding assistant that exists. Some people might ask why I'm not using Cursor AI, which is, I think, some sort of a version of VS Code that you can plug some APIs to help you code. But from what I've seen on the internet, you just have like a chat here. You still have to copy and paste things, and the problem is, in this situation, you have to pay by the request, and this is something that I don't like. I already pay $20 a month for Claude Sonnet, and I don't like. I just feel nervous and uncomfortable every time when I press the button that someone in the background just reads how many thousands of stupid letters I wrote and charges me money for that. So I already pay for this one, and I don't do this 8 hours a day. because if you do that, you're gonna run out of calls for sure. But if you do it like a couple of hours in the evening, couple of hours in the morning, you you're getting most of your subscription because you're utilizing all the limit of the tokens that you can get. So I'm a huge fan of using the web versions, and I'm trying to build more and more complicated things with models, with LLMs since OpenAI GPT-4. Unfortunately, GPT-4 fell behind a lot, and I stopped paying it. People claiming that O1 Mini is better than Claude Sonnet, but as I said, it lacks a lot of features, which will hopefully OpenAI is going to add later, and the price is going to become reasonable, because at the moment the limit is completely useless. You have like 30 calls on the normal one and 50 calls per week. Like, GPT-4 start with like 25 calls every 3 hours. We're talking about the same amount but per week. It's insane, completely useless for now. And I'm not saying anything against it. People say it's very intelligent, yes, but as I said, it still cannot build anything useful in a single prompt. So with that out of the way, I just want to talk a little bit about what I want to build. And I'm going to start with something relatively simple but realistic. It's a RESTful API. And I just picked a random topic that I like. I want to collect every single Elon Musk interview from the web. That means all the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, X, and whatever he has some interviews. And I want to make a database that can be served through a RESTful API. What we're going to build with it after that, it doesn't matter. It's just the first step. Having a proper RESTful API built from scratch from someone that doesn't know how to do that and never done it before would be, in my opinion, at least some sort of validation that these things can be useful and can actually replace certain people, or low-level people. Like, at least maybe can help some people to speed up their work if they know what they're doing. And if they don't, like me, it can help them build something by themselves, or land a job somewhere where they can use it to do useful work. So I've already started with the project, so I'm just going to fill you in what I have done. I created a project. It's called EMF. I don't know, Elon Musk something. So this is part of how Claude is set up, and I like it very much because you have this thing called projects, and you can create different projects. And those projects have two places to put documents. One, you can add content to the chat itself, but also you can put a project knowledge in the form of files. And the last thing is you can add custom instructions. So the way it works is, every time you start a new chat, in front of the chat, I explored this one with asking the model to tell me what it sees, and it actually dumped the beginning of the conversation that it sees. Whatever you have attached at every call is what they see, what the chat sees. So when you delete one file, in between, in the middle of the chat, in the next call, this file is not going to be visible for the model anymore, which is very good because you can constantly updating your code base here in between every call that you make. So every time the model would have the latest code base to work with. So, one moment. Okay, sorry. As I said, it's just some technical issues here. So I'm going to add something. Again, I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm not doing this for money. I have a day job, and this is a hobby for me. I don't have an editor like most YouTubers. So what I'm doing is I don't have time to edit these videos, cut unnecessary bullshit. So what I did is I'm just gonna pause the recording to figure out when there's a technical issue, and I'm gonna continue from where I stopped. So what happened is my screen just froze, and I had to unplug and plug in the cable from my computer. So now everything works fine. So where I was here with this is that this project knowledge actually allows you in real time to update the code base that you wanted to see. And the custom instructions that you can put is, we're building Elon Musk interviews website, featuring a Flask API and frontend. There's always be a files, blah blah. Here I'm explaining how the model wants to, how I want the model to behave, and say there will always be file with the current or slightly outdated project structure. So this means that I'm keeping a file in which I'm keeping the project structure, because unfortunately you cannot upload folders here. So the way this model sees it is just like a bunch of files. There's no structure behind it. So as you can see, there's init files which are multiple, and the model doesn't know which one is which. I mean, it can probably see the content and figure out where it's supposed to be, but not always. So that's why I'm keeping a folder structure and also the files. And then I explained that the folders in my file end with slash, and files have extensions. The intention, this word is probably misspelled, basically shows which one is subfolder of which. And I tell it that I wanted to reply short, to the point, don't apologize, and also some other things that I wanted to do when it replies to me. So the nice thing about this is you can always start a new conversation. Currently we are in a project called EMF, and these are the conversations I had. So the knowledge shares between the chats, and what you put here is only specifically for the chat. So let's say you get an error and like you want to show something on the UI that you don't like, you take a screenshot and you put it to the current conversation, so Claude can help you. One other thing is that actually Anthropic is very good in informing you that when you're doing something stupid, is when a conversation becomes too big. They start to advise you to start a new one, which is great. But the problem is, especially this was very difficult with ChatGPT, that you have to start a new chat, but then you have to explain everything you did. So one trick I'm using is I'm telling summarize this conversation in order to shift to a new one, and then it generates a small summary that I can put in a new chat, and I continue from there. But usually I tend to separate my work in a small chunks, and want to finish one job in one conversation. And one other thing that counts towards the length of your conversation is what you have in the project knowledge. Currently, I don't know why it's not showing me how much my project knowledge is, but here it was showing as a percentage, and usually my code base takes like 3%. I measured it, that it actually can fit around 200,000 words. I just created a file with 200,000 separate words and just uploaded it, and it filled up the entire project knowledge. Anthropic actually counts your number of codes a little bit differently. For example, at least before was like that in the first versions in ChatGPT, it was counting the number of codes that you can do. Anthropic actually has probably certain number of tokens that they want to give you, that they are giving you. So they advise you that if you start new calls, chats, you're gonna run out of calls. Not sooner, later. I mean, you're gonna be able to use your limit for longer, because the longer the chat and the history here, the more processing they need to do. So you have to try to keep your project knowledge shorter. To upload only the things that you need. In my case, my code base is still short, so I'm just uploading everything. But at some point in the future, when the things become bigger, I'll just upload the parts that I need. So combining the custom instructions to that are also shared between chats with the project knowledge files, it gives you a powerful tool, and you don't need like a Cursor AI or paying for API calls and things like that. I know a lot of people are big fans of having a local hardware to run their models, and they're talking about how good the Llama models are from Meta. Yeah, they are good. The issue is there is a reason why these accounts that we're using cost so much money. It's because they burn a lot of electricity, and if you want to run Llama locally, you have to burn this electricity. And it's not only burning electricity, but you have to have a very, very expensive hardware to do so. So I was looking at a video today how to build a local Llama 2 for your kids and all these things. Yes, you can do that, but in order to do it, you need like 100 gigabytes of RAM and one or two 4090 NVIDIA chips, and they cost like $2,000-3,000. So if I spend like $4,000-7,000 on a hardware machine to run open source models, how many years I'll need to pay this off? And with the speed that everything changes, will I even ever be able to do that? Because first of all, you're stuck with models like Llama. I don't expect O2 to become open source at any time soon, and you'll be able to run it on your hardware. So it's better to pay for the latest and greatest tools. Yes, it could be steep, but that's why I'm trying to find a way to use them for a productive labor, not just doing Tetris games online, as most people do. I want to not just compare them for fun and clicks and views. I just want to see what I can do. Why I'm doing it on video, it's another talk. I'm not going to discuss it now. But let's see. So again, this one you cannot really replace now with any local model organized so well for only $20 without any setup. Like the knowledge moves from chat to chat. You have custom instructions, so you really need very little work to start new conversation. You just need to explain where we are at the moment and what we need to build next. How do we transfer the code is also another good thing that Anthropic does, is they use this so-called let me see another chat that has that. It's called artifacts, which is very good in comparison to what OpenAI does. I don't know why it looks like this. There you go. So essentially, ChatGPT creates these long conversations where you have to scroll up and look for between for every portion where they give you code, whereas Anthropic is giving you this relatively short post, like this is my question, this is the reply, and this is giving you information about what you need to do, but this information is in front of your eyes on one screen, so you can just look at it, as opposed of if this was a huge code block. And how you can see the code, you just click on this one and it pops up on this side only the code that you want. And the nice thing is you can select a certain portion, you can say improve or explain if you don't understand something. And the way I do it is I just click copy and paste it inside of VS Code. At least what I've seen, Cursor AI is pretty much the same. Basically, this is your Cursor, let's say your editor for the code, and here is your chat, and you still have to do manual work to shift the code. It's not like you're writing in the code and this changes automatically, or code for you. It has access to your code base, but again, the way I set up Claude is also doing the same thing. So a little bit about organization of my project. So besides like working with Claude here, I chose, there you go, now it shows that I have 3% of the knowledge filled up. I chose to use the following systems, tech stack or whatever they call it. So usually in order to get the best results, I try to stick to what the model actually suggests, because this means that this is probably the one technology that the model knows the best. And for our case, we're going to be using a Flask server. Flask is, as far as I know, a Python-based server where you can create APIs, or you can even serve pages. I'm sorry if I'm explaining it not good for people who aren't experts, but I assume no expert would watch this. So I don't know very well Flask. I mean, I know other languages better. I mainly do C#, but and I know in any language there's technology for this. In C# would be ASP.NET, in Java will be Node.js, and PHP has a bunch of other frameworks. And there's like any language can write API, a RESTful API. But in our case, we're going to be using Flask because it's relatively quick, and so far I'm getting good results. How do I run it? I created a new, let me just start from the beginning. I start a new VS Code, and in the VS Code, you have to install a couple of extensions, Docker, dev containers, and some others. We can probably talk about them later. So the way I open it is I created a folder on my OneDrive, which is probably not a great idea. And I just click open new folder, and when I open it, loads everything inside. So I'm not running any of these on my local machine. As you can see, if I open, let's say, app.py, it actually underlines this and says that it cannot find Flask because I don't have Flask installed on my local machine. Sorry, another technical issue. So what I want to do is I want to containerize this. I don't want to explain Docker too much, but you can think of it as like a way to package your development into different containers. And these containers, you can think of them as, let's say, Linux machines, virtual Linux machines that are created by this software Docker, and you can let's say build a machine for your database. You can build a machine for your front end from backend, and then you can create connections between them, like a networking. So basically you can create like a little super lightweight virtual machine that you can put together. The nice thing about it is you basically need to, when you need to deploy this one to production, you just need to, ship them to your server, and they're going to be exactly as they are on your computer. So you don't need to recreate your working development, like your production environment on your working environment. So, like, I'm using Windows 11, but most of these things are hosted on Linux. So there's a bunch of differences if you're coding it in Windows and then you ship it on Linux. So that's why you want to create your containers as you want them in production environment. Docker containers are created by this Docker file. It's a capital D Docker file with no extension, where you write what you want to do with it. Docker is, it has a Windows app, and also it has like a command prompt app, which is, let's say, if you want to see what containers are running, you can type docker PS, and this shows you that I have 3 containers running. One is called Postgres, the other one is called pgadmin, and the third one is my app. I'll talk about them later. So how you do is you tell in the Docker file what you want to install. So you start from Python 3.9, which is like a image file from which it takes the information. It installs some sort of a Debian and installs Python on it, and then it runs. Like this is a Debian command for updating and installing all these different libraries and tools. So every time you build it, it installs this one. Then it gives a working folder that is called app, and then I'm copying a file called requirements.txt in which I install my pip install libraries that I need. And then I run the command pip install, and I tell to read the things from requirements.txt. And at the end, I'm running command python -m app, which means it's going to start my app. What is in my requirements? I need use Flask, Werkzoek, I don't even know how to read this, Flask SQL, Alchemy, PSY, copy-g2, Flask admin, Flask login, and Flask migrate. I didn't come up with these requirements myself. Claude told me which one would we need, so I just copy them. There's also this Docker Compose. I'm not really sure. I don't know details about it, but basically here you set up your system. Like if you need something more complicated, you set it up here. So here I'm defining the services, basically the 3 machines that I need. One for app, one for database, and one for pgadmin. So for app, I tell it build dot. I suppose this means to build this Docker file first. Then I set up a volume, which means that my dot kernel folder, src folder or source folder, it gets exposed inside of app folder. So when I go inside of the machine and go to app, I'm going to be seeing what is here. So essentially I can write in my local machine, but when I run it, it's going to automatically appear in the app. Then this machine's local port 5000, I map it to 8080. Why 5000 to 8080? Because Flask by default uses 5000, but for some reason on my local machine something was locking 5000, so I just used a commonly used a port that is usually open, which is 8080. Of course, in the production, this one should be mapped to port 80 because we don't want to make calls to some weird ports. Then I can set some environment variables. One is that I'm in debug mode, then the URL. I'm using Postgres, my database. I created some weird keystroke password for it. So this is where the software is gonna this is where it's gonna look for the database, and it says it depends on DB. DB is the next container, which is starting. So the first one is built from the local Docker file, and the second one is built by the Postgres. So there is the same way like in our Docker file, we have something from which we start, which is called Python 3.9. In this case, we're starting from the image code Postgres 13. So essentially, this is what we built here. Here, we're using image, which is Postgres 13, and then we add certain things to it. So again, there is a Postgres data, which is mapped to varlib Postgres SQL data inside of the machine, or the other way around. Then there's a couple of Postgres environment vars, which is the database user, the database password, and the database name. Then I installed a pgadmin, which is Postgres admin. It's something similar to phpMyAdmin for MySQL. It's basically a web version, web-based tool for accessing and looking into the database. I create like an account. I didn't even change the default password for it. And also I mapped this third container, which starts from the image dph pgadmin4. I map its port 80 because it's meant to be open on port 80 to my 5050, which was also recommended by Claude. And also it depends on DB. So basically this and this, they depend on the DB. So in order for them to run, these two should work. And then volumes, I think it creates a volume for persistent data. And this is handled by Docker internally. So every time when you stop and start your content, it's going to be there. I don't need to worry where it's located. It's been automatically handled by Docker. The user UI, it's much nicer here. So you can come to volumes and you can see the different volumes. So the one that we use, it's EMF, which is the 00 EMF, which is the name of the project, Postgres data, and it says it's in use. Here you can see the images. These are the 3 images for Postgres, for the admin and the app. So these are the volumes, the images. Basically images like the template that is used in order to create a container. And here you can see the already running containers. At the moment, as you can see, my whole, I don't know if it's called environment or application or whatever, is called 00 EMF, and it contains the 3 containers DB1, APP1, and pgadmin1. So based on these 3 images, okay? This one is starting from 00 EMF app, which is my Docker file. This is Postgres 13, and this is the pgadmin4. It says what the port mappings are. This one doesn't have anything exposed, how much CPU they use, and so on. And if you click on any of them, you can see their current output. You can also execute commands inside of them if you want. So currently, one of them is working. If I go back, I can go to this. I'm using the same one. Yeah. So if something goes wrong and it doesn't want to start, you always have to come here and look. You can also see these things with commands, but for now we're gonna just stick to looking at here. You can also stop and start these machines. I do not do that. I'm using them from I'm running and stopping them from with commands only at the moment. And here it shows you how much memory and CPU is using. Because I have 28 CPUs on my computer. It's a normal laptop, as you can imagine. I have 2800%, and currently I'm using only 0.12% of one. So let me show you how this thing can be built and stopped. So the command to stop the application is actually I have to be in the folder where the Docker compose file is. I can use command docker compose down. This is to stop everything. So as you can see now, it says removed, and oops, and they all disappeared from here. So I'm gonna just put them next to each other so you can see the difference. And if I want everything to be built, like initially, what you need to do when you create these files and you want to build the containers, the images, you have to do docker compose. Then you have to do build. And since I already built this, it's gonna take much less time. But if you want to rebuild it anyways and make sure everything is rebuilt from scratch, you have to add no cache. like this. I'm gonna do it because it's gonna take forever, so I'm gonna just show you the build command. When you run it like this, you see very quickly it rebuilt everything. So the way to run the containers is you have to do docker compose up, apparently the opposite for down, and then -d to run it as a daemon, so it doesn't actually block your terminal, and it runs as a daemon in the background, so it's a background process. So when I press this, it creates them, and you can see on the right side that they appear directly in the Docker desktop application. So what have we already built, and what's next? So with that out of the way, so these two files are clear. This is clear. This is the project structure, how I show it to the model. I'm just dumping this file in the model, in the project knowledge. So terminal commands is different. It's not important. And this is our source. In our source file, folder, we have several folders. We have already created, again, based on best practices. Maybe some other things are not so best, and if some expert is looking at this and wants to laugh at me, you can always write a comment in the comment and say this is bullshit, this is not the right way. I can tell you that this information that comes from the models comes from the internet, and internet is posted by people. So if it says it's done in a certain way, it definitely read it somewhere. So it's unless it's hallucinating. But the things that I'm doing are pretty basic, so they should be more or less correct. So the application starts from app.py, and here I'm importing the modules that I need. There's a login manager. We're going to talk later about it. There's secure model view class, which most likely I have to extract into a separate file. And then this is the entry point of the application. We have a create app where we create a Flask server. We read the config file. This is the config file that reads the same information that we had in the Docker Compose. And then it passes this information to the app. And then we initialize the database. There's a migration here, which we run. Migrations are used to apply modification of your database to your current database without destroying it, but I have bad experience with it so far. So I had to delete basically the database and recreate it from scratch because I needed to add some fields. But we're going to need to work with this in the future because you always need to add fields and remove fields in your database, and you cannot refill all the information every single time unless you create like a seed. Seed is like the default information that goes into your database when you create it. But we're gonna, one way or another, learn how to work with migrations and seed files. Then we create a login manager. Also, we are using separate entity called admin. As you can see, this one comes from admin, and admin is Flask admin. This is a completely different module that comes from not from Flask, but from Flask admin. It's basically, I asked Claude to make me a web admin where I can manipulate the database in a bit easier way than the Postgres admin. I'll show them later to you how they look like. Then I defined what needs to happen when you go to the main page, and finally I can show you what it does. So I'll bring this one here. So if I go to 8080, and this brings me this message. So then here I'm adding a context to the app, creates all database, and then adds different routes. So I have route for authentication, for user, for interview, and admin out. Then I'm registering them, and I'm using this login manager. I'm not really sure how this thing exactly works. No, actually, login manager, user, loader. Okay, so it loads the current user. based on this ID, so it knows what privileges you have. So if you're admin, it knows what to show you and what not to show you. So basically, this is a function created. This is not even a class. It's just like a stupid function. And essentially, this is where the code starts from here. And the program enters from line 53, executes this, creates the app using the function create app, and then uses app.run and runs it on host 000 on port 5000. The reason why it's running it on port 5000, but I'm accessing it on port 8080 is, as we discussed, that we have a port forwarding here because 5000 was busy on my main machine. And I'm running it on my Windows, but inside of the container, it's a Linux. So this is basically how it works. And in the folders, I have schemas. Schemas are how the database look like, the tables, basically how to create the schemas of the tables. So this is the interview, what fields it needs to use, and the other one is actually, I'm not really sure what dump and load means, but this is how it's defining a table. Same for user, and interestingly, there's no isadmin here, so maybe this is old. I have to check. This is the schemas. Then I have routes, which are routes here. So the routes are defining for each of my I don't know how this is called, /alt, like endpoints, I guess, for each my endpoint, what kind of a soup endpoints I can have. Sorry, I'm using the wrong terminology. Basically, this is like if I go to /alt, what can I see? You know, so this is defining different screens. So I can have login, which I have this, and I can have register, which is this. Okay, so I'm defining the endpoint, and there for auth I have register, I have logging, I have logout, and I have token. This is for interview. I have v1 interviews. This is my endpoint for interviews. So I can post to create, get, and so on. All different, the whole CRUD is here. Create, read, update, delete, CRUD. And then for the user, I have different methods. So if I go to /users, I can see all the users theoretically, but I cannot do it because it requires me to have a token. So it's going to be v1/users, and it says token is missing, which is, it means it works. Okay. So that's the routes, and these are the models. I have model for the interview, I have model for token, I have model for the user. So I suppose this is what creates the database, and I'm not sure what Schemas does. Really, I am not sure what Schema does. That shows how stupid I am. So yeah, this is because I know that in the user I do have his admin column. And how do I know that? I think it's time to show you the pgadmin. So pgadmin, you can access it by going to 5050. And here I use the default logging. And the way you add the database, you go to register server. My container is named db. So I just write db. And here my database is Joro. And the password is just random keys that I managed to type, and I click save, and this is how you access the admin. You go to DB, then database, then Elon, then you go to schemas, you go to tables, and then you can see interviews. If you want to see all the interviews, you can just right click and say view all rows, and it shows you all the rows that are created, and currently I only have one. Here are the tokens. You can go ahead and see them like this. View data all rows. There's 2 tokens. And there's also all the users we have, which is from here. And so it's useful, but it's a little bit difficult to enter the information from here. So that's why I wanted to create the admin, but the admin at the moment does not work. What was the user? Elon fan, and I think the password should be whatever. Let's see. Yeah, at the moment this is where we are. So let's see. Oh fuck. Okay, so we're here. Basically where we are at the moment is I'm trying to explain, to understand better, and because it's not like, one thing you need to know is you need to understand the technology, but also you need to know what you want to build. And of course, there's always good practices, but you also need to know how you want the things to be. And here what I'm doing is I'm just going along and building things as they come. I do some planning when I'm not recording video. I'm just thinking about it, what I want to do and how I want to do it. But at the moment, we have 2 types of logins. One is login through token, and one is through session. And the session is for the web part where we want to see the admin, but the admin is kind of a separate entity that works funky, and I want to protect it if the user is logged in. But also the token is for using the API. So essentially we're going to have a token. We're going to have an API which will be accessed through, let's say, the URL v1/ and then here we're going to add our calls. Endpoints, and make calls to them. And also we're going to have the admin, which is going to be a web thing, which is going to look like 127/admin, where we're going to be able to do the administration of the database in a much more user-friendly way. And also, we also want to see what we're going to see when we go to the main address of the website, which would be like this. Okay, at the moment we see this, but this is kind of stupid. So here we need to have some sort of web page in which people can see the documentation for the API, and also they should be able to register and then create their tokens so they can use the API. So essentially we need 2 webs and 1 API, and we want all 3 to be handled by the same user. To be handled by the Flask, but also to use the same shared user in the database, which is this guy. So for the web part, where you can create tokens, we can use the username and password in order to authenticate the people, and they can create their own tokens for using the API. And each admin is going to be checked every time when you log in into admin part, which is completely different software, and the token would be used in when you authenticate for the different endpoints. So what I asked is to unify all this, and where we are now is Claude actually created a plan of action. So how to change our application, because at the moment, the way we are, I mean, this one works, even though I just didn't provide token for it. This one does not work. You see that I'm going to some weird errors. And this one is working because I'm just seeing nothing. I'm just, essentially, this is not really like a code to, and maybe it is. So if you go to app.py, you see it's defined here as a what happens when you go to slash, it just returns JSONify message. So basically here is where our website would be for the documentation and logging. So all three things working, but at the moment we're in a state where things are a little bit disarray. They're not working perfectly fine. I probably should have started this video from the very beginning, but I just wanted to clear the things in my head and do something and get to a point where at this point, if I dump you this project and Claude, and if you don't know nothing, you're most likely not going to be able to continue. Even if you give the entire code base, this gets, in my opinion, a little bit ahead of just create me a Tetris game in one prompt. This one, even if I drop everything, you need some extra knowledge to continue from here onwards. So the plan that was created by Claude was, so the main app is going to be on slash. We're going to have a login form that's going to redirect to a dashboard when you logged in. So we need to create another route. Then we're going to have a registration link, or I suppose on the main page. So we're going to have a login form, we're going to have a registration link, and we might add like a public documentations a link for on the dashboard, on the login page, on the main page. Then inside of the dashboard, which is going to be protected by logging, we're going to have a generate token button so the user can get I mean, it's not going to be like a end user. This is going to be like a developer that wants to include this information to their application. So they just register. Most likely we're going to have some verifications and things like that. Most likely we're going to have to approve the tokens, but for now let's make it just super simple, where they can just go and generate token. If I make this one to production and someone starts to abuse this thing, I can just cancel the token. And then a logout button. So very simple dashboard with 2 buttons. And then it's going to be protected by the login required decorator. We're going to see what the decorators are in a moment. And then admin, it's a separate page. It has a separate login form and has access restricted to the users with isAdmin true. So essentially it's going to use the same table with the same username and password. But let's say if a normal user finds this page, which is pretty easy to find, you just type /admin. At some point we can whitelist the IPs, they can access it because they don't want people to play with it, but only people that will be able to access this will be who have the isAdmin true. And then it gives you a plan. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, after this super long introduction, I'm going to say, okay, let's implement that. And let's see. And this is how the process works. So when it's generating, I tend to just start on the first one and see what it generates. So, oops, shit. Okay. It is Okay, let's regenerate it. I don't know if it managed to finish this, okay? Shit, this looks different. So, certainly let's start by implementing the main components. Create a new file, web routes in the routes, okay. So, from now on, because I don't want to, actually let me see, maybe it's okay. So let's create a web route in here, in routes. Go to routes, create a new file. It's going to be named web routes. So what we want us to put here is all this. Okay. Again, I'm reading through them. I'm not just doing them blindly. So let's see. It imports blueprints from Flask, render templates, redirect. Okay. Flash requests, login. Okay. Services out. Okay, good. So then it defines 3 different routes. One is slash, which is the main one, which will have it's gonna, let's see. Oh, sorry. So if the user goes to the main page and it's authenticated, it's gonna redirect it directly to dashboard, and if it's not, it's gonna render the login HTML form. Then the dashboard, it's gonna check if you're required. So this is the decorator that checks if you're required. Here you not need to be required. You don't need to be logged in here, but here you need to do that. And then it's gonna return the template dashboard HTML. Then there is a generate token where you need to do post and login required and some junk how it generates it. Log out, you have to be logged in order to do that, and does the logout. So this is pretty straightforward what it does. Then we have to update the app py to include the new blueprint and modify the admin viewer. Okay, so for that I will need to use 2 screens. So just have a look at it. I'm not going to switch between the screens for now, at least until there's something interesting on the other side. So let's go to app.py, and what we need to do first, we need to import the routes web, import pp as bp web at the top. Okay, one moment. Routes web import bp as web bp. I sure thought I have to have this already, but okay. Okay, let me just cut this, put it here. Then in create app, I need to register web. Oh, shoot. Yes, exactly. I knew I had this one. Yes, it showed it a little bit weird. See, it shows existing setup. It was, yeah, it should have shown me that this needs to go with this with app. So I need to register it here, okay? Not there. Although it says the routes is missing. Let's see. Then modify class secure model view. Okay, secure model view. Okay, let's see. Oopsie, not like that. I want to just copy the secure web view. Here. Let's move back. Okay. So current user is authenticated. Okay, I already have that. Oh my god, you're not reading the file. Yeah. That's the same. So I'm gonna put this, it's already there. Yeah, I have a feeling this is not gonna work from the first time. Then the next thing we need to do is, let me try. Okay. I hope I not forget to shift the screen. So I need to create a template. In the templates folder, it's gonna be called dashboard HTML. So let's do that. Go here, new file, and it's gonna be dashboard HTML. I'm gonna copy the code from there, paste it here. Basically, welcome to the dashboard, current user, blah blah. Forms, web logout, and so on. We're gonna see this one in a moment. And the next one that it says is to create, modify the existing login HTML. So we already have that, so I'm just gonna copy this and go here, and in login HTML I'm gonna just paste this. Then in the auth py, I'm going to need to, okay, let's see, auth py. I suppose this is in routers. There is a logging method. Let's see, logging get post. Okay, when it's post, then existing logic. Okay, and if it's JSON, Jesus, that's confusing. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, this is a trick when I don't want to think too much, and so in order to save space, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just say, this is my at BP route login. Please implement the changes for me. I can even not fix these mistakes. There you go. And now it gives me the entire thing, so I don't have to think, where should I put this, where should I put that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is copy the code and just replace this one. Okay. And it says, see, it says here that this is not defined, but actually it says make sure to import logging user from the Flask login at the top of the file. So what I need to do is go here and import, what? But I already have that. I don't have a logging user. Okay. So I do Control C, Control V, and I delete this. Okay. And now this no longer cries. Yep. Great. So I'm gonna remove this unnecessary comment. I don't know when I can do it without restarting the server, so that pretty much I every time do it. So I'm gonna go to turn off the server and then turn it on. I quickly see, and if I see any of these exited, then there is a mistake and error. And this one exited, so there is a problem. And apparently there is a problem with the route webpp blah blah, something is not imported. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here and directly paste the error to tell it. Okay, the error indicates, the good thing is while it's making the code you can already read, and if you stop it with a scroll. So okay, so First, here indicates the web route module is not found. This is likely because we haven't created the web route py file in routes folder. Let's fix that. Yeah, stupid thing didn't think of that. So let's create a file, and the name is gonna be, I'm gonna just copy the name. Oh shit. Oh no, I do have web route. Come on. Is this thinking that I'm stupid? Yeah, I do have that. Of course. Okay. Update app UI. So what I need to do from routes web from but how come I don't have routes? Oh, because yeah, this is web routes, not web. So this is a mistake that was done by this stupid thing. And also make sure that init py in routes is updated. So in route, there is init py, and I need to put this. Okay, great. Good. I think it caught the error, so there's a decent chance now this thing works. Shit, how do I stop this? There you go. Okay. Nothing exited, that's good. So the moment of truth. Let's go to the main page. Yikes. I know what the problem is. We still have this thing. Okay. We still have this in the app.py. I am directly getting into it. Should I remove it? Please have a look at the file app.py and consider the changes that you told me to do, because they are not in the file that you have in the beginning of the conversation. There's typos, but I don't care. I apologize for confusion. You're right, you need to update app UI, file to redirect to a new structure. Okay, added this one, registered this one. Yeah, so essentially, I think, yeah, I think it's kind of safe to just Control-C, Control-V this. Ooh, this redirect doesn't work. Let's see if it has it before. Yep. And it was same, so no problem. It doesn't, what I thought is that it uses something new that is not included and so on, but again, this is not available on my Windows PC where this whole thing is running, not inside of the container. So let's run it again. Oops. Down, up, and let's see. Nothing exited, that's good. So, oh, so that was still showing the other screen. I have to start remember doing that. So, I mean, I have to remember switching between the screens. So yeah, I turned it off, down, and then up, and now everything works. So we go into the other screen and we go here, press, and the moment of truth is we have register and we have login. If we go here, we go to this form, which is good. No, I don't like that. So when I log in, let's see. Nice, I'm in the dashboard. So I have generate token. It says hello, and I have logout. Let's see if I log out. I'm back here. Can I log in? Nice. So this works. Generate token, and it generated a token for me. That's awesome. The only thing I don't like is where it sends me when I click on register. Because it's sending me to a weird place, and I think I need to be register. No. Okay. Actually, I really want to finish one thing so I can upload it as a successful video. So I'm gonna try to figure out this thing because it's like already 12:30 a.m. So let's have a look at the code. Why, when I click on register, I'm going there. So let's go and see the forms. The form would be But when I go to slash, where it sends me, which form it loads, for God's sake. Oh. Oh. Should be here, right? In routes, web routes. Okay. So it renders login HTML. Oh, so the login HTML contains the wrong thing, right? And I do not have register. I have dashboard, generate token, and logout. And in this form, I simply have this one that goes to the wrong place. I no longer need this. Okay. So the first thing we need to do. Okay, let's continue in this chat. I hope it's gonna fix it. Okay. It works, but we are missing the register web route. Here, what the file looks like now. Nice. Actually, it's quite smart. Oh shit. Okay, let's see. So I can let me see what it add. Route, register, dashboard. Okay, I'm gonna just take a risk and just copy paste the whole thing. Control A, Control A, Control V. Okay, I have a nice register, and then it also told me to create register.html, which I already have, so I'm gonna just delete this and create a new one and paste it here. So let's go ahead. I think in this case I don't need to reload. Let's see. Nope, I do need to reload. Okay, so I'm gonna run down and up. There you go. So, no, actually it was okay. Just the login form was not changed. So let's try to see if we have something here. Register. Awesome. And this one should take you to login. Awesome. So all I need to do now is just to fix this register button, not to go to alt register, but to go to the actual register, which is /register. So how do I do that? I'm not gonna ask Claude. I'm gonna just try to be smart. And let's see what is redirecting it. Here it says auth register, and here it says auth login. I suppose. I don't know. Let's try like this. I'm not really sure. Whoa. Fuck. Okay. So let's paste this. I guess we're gonna have to ask Claude for help. Here, the login, the register button is sending us to auth / register, but we want to be to /register. Yeah, right, blah, blah, blah. It's web what? Okay. I'm going back here and yep, apparently it's a web register. Then let's see if I can do it without restarting the machine. Yes. See, now register loads to register and this goes to here. Okay. So I can log in, I can generate token, I can log out, and I can register. And let's see if I can register a new user. So this is going to be Rob, and his email is going to be rob@gmail.com, and his password is going to be 123456. Register, and there I'm in. And let's have a quick look if we are here. Register server db. Every time I restart, I lose the connection, which is not ideal. Oro. And let's put the password, save. Come on. Fuck. I suppose I have to restart this. Yep. Login. Again, register server db Joro. And this is the password for Joro. Okie dokie. Maybe the password was not saved correctly. There you go. So let's go ahead and go to databases, Elon Fan, schemas, tables, users, view, oros. Yep, we have Rob, and Rob is actually there. And let's see the tokens. View, oros. Yoo-hoo! I have a bunch of tokens and they're all under user number 1. So apparently we achieved everything. Let's see if we can get back Claude. I'm gonna just try it because I'm gonna close soon. So what I would do is I'm gonna ask for some design. So could you please add some bootstrap CSS to the forms uh, because they look dry. Here is the latest version, so we can make sure we don't change anything because they work. This is not how you spell work, but I don't care. So what I'm gonna do is copy this, this. Oh, did I do that? Yeah, and this. There you go. So I say goodbye to all web developers, people who make the things to look beautiful. And if you don't believe me, you see what I'm talking about. These dry forms are gonna start looking nice. So I'm going to the dashboard, copy, and there's something wrong today with Claude. Okay. Let's see if I can get it back. Awesome. Kudos to the Anthropic team that you're not losing anything. So I'm going back to here, and this is file logging. So I need to go to logging, Control A, Control V. So basically what it does, it adds a link to CDN where it loads Bootstrap. This is a famous library for style sheet, and makes the things look nicer out of the box. So this is the register. I'm gonna do Control C, Control V. Most likely here I don't need to restart the server. So what I'm gonna do is just click log out. Oof, fantastic, right? You have logged out. Then I can click on register, and I'm going here. Come on, tomorrow or next time when I'm doing this one, I'm gonna just add two passwords and make this one smaller and so on. And you can go back to login. You can click login, and this is how our dashboard looks like. Okay, I think this is a good point to wrap this video up. And yeah, I do hope anyone actually watch that. I know I talk a little bit slow, so you probably want to watch this one on 2x if you really, even if there's anyone ever watching it. But if there is, just hit a like button or just write a comment so I can see that I'm not talking to myself only. As I said, I'm not a real YouTuber. I don't care too much about monetization of the videos and so on. I just want to share what I'm experiencing and how and just walk you through this new journey of that we're gonna have. Like we have to transition from like writing code by ourselves and digging through Stack Overflow towards using these super advanced helpers that can generate code for you. And sometimes, of course, you can make a mistake. Of course, you can miss something if you don't pay attention. But with certain amount of knowledge and perseverance and using these tools, you can, in my opinion, build nice things. But let's see. I'm definitely going to continue this. So this is part 1. I'm going to give you a secret. I already bought a domain for this project. So at some point, this is going to become a real RESTful API. And the code most likely is going to be linked in the description from GitHub. So yeah, if you enjoy it, just hit a like button, say hi in the comments. No need to give me clever comments. You can just say, you idiot, you're using this one wrong. Yeah, that's it. Enough ranting. Thank you very much. And yeah, I'll see you soon.